Nietzsche's powerful advice, why following others makes you weak. What if I told you that your need to fit in is the very thing keeping you small? That the expectations you've accepted, the rules you live by, the career path laid before you, the opinions shaping your identity are not yours and never were? What if the life you're trying so hard to perfect is one you didn't even choose? Friedrich Nietzsche believed that most people live as shadows of themselves, not because they are incapable of greatness, but because they've traded their inner voice for the comfort of following others. They've inherited values instead of questioning them. They've absorbed truths instead of challenging them. And in doing so, they've lost the most important thing a human being can possess: the will to become who they truly are. This video is not just about Nietzsche, it's about you. And it's about a decision you may not even realize you're making every single day: to follow or to become. From the beginning, we're domesticated. Our minds are molded before we even know they're being shaped, first by family, then by school, by religion, by culture, by media. We're taught what's right, what's wrong, what success looks like, what failure looks like. We're told who to admire, what to pursue, and who we should be. And at first, this seems helpful. It gives us structure. It gives us direction, but Nietzsche saw the danger hiding in that structure: conformity. The slow erosion of the individual. He called it the herd. The masses who follow without questioning, who obey without thinking, who live by borrowed values and inherited fears. And the tragedy is, most of us don't even realize we've joined the herd. We think we're being independent, we think we're making choices, but if we trace our decisions back to their roots, how many of them are?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Nietzsche's advice is both terrifying and liberating. You must become who you are, not who they expect you to be, not who you were trained to be, but who you are at your deepest, wildest, most authentic core. And that path, it's not given to you, it's forged, it's earned. It requires rebellion, not against society for its own sake, but against every lie you've swallowed about yourself. It means killing your idols. It means unlearning the beliefs that keep you enslaved. It means going into the wilderness of your own soul and asking, what do I want, really? What do I value, not because I was told to, but because I've tested it in the fire of experience? But most people don't want that responsibility. It's easier to follow. It's easier to copy what works for others. It's easier to pursue someone else's definition of success than to create your own. But here's the problem. When you live by someone else's values, you will always feel like something is missing. No matter how much you achieve, it won't feel like yours. That's why so many high achievers end up miserable. They climbed someone else's mountain. They were praised, promoted, applauded, and still they felt empty, because the soul cannot be tricked by applause. It knows when you've betrayed your true path. Nietzsche wasn't encouraging chaos. He wasn't saying do whatever you want. He was saying become the author of your life. Take back the pen. Stop quoting everyone else's script and start writing your own. But to do that, you'll have to go through what he called the death of God. Not necessarily the literal God, but the collapse of all the external authorities you've relied on to give your life meaning. That collapse is terrifying. It feels like losing the ground beneath your feet. But Nietzsche believed that only after this death can the Übermensch, the higher human, be born, the one who creates their own values, their own vision, their own purpose. So ask yourself, whose life are you living? Whose dreams are you chasing? Whose fears are you obeying? And more importantly, what would your life look like if you stopped following and started becoming? Because Nietzsche's warning is clear, following others doesn't just make you average, it makes you weak. Not weak in terms of ability, but weak in spirit. You become dependent on approval. You shapeshift to fit in. You abandon your strength for safety. But there is a deeper power waiting inside you, not in rebellion for its own sake, but in becoming the one who no longer needs to follow, the one who walks alone, not out of pride, but out of necessity. Because the path to your deepest self can never be found by imitation. It must be created step by step, choice by choice, truth by truth. The herd versus the creator. Why true freedom begins with inner rebellion. What Nietzsche understood, and what most people miss, is that the greatest threat to human potential isn't destruction, it's comfort. It's the slow, numbing seduction of belonging to the herd. Because once you're in the herd, everything seems easier. You don't have to think too hard. You don't have to take existential risks. You just follow the crowd, adopt their values, echo their opinions, and let your life be shaped by consensus. But that ease comes at a cost. Your individuality, your creativity, your soul. The herd demands conformity, and conformity demands your silence. Your real thoughts must be softened, your real desires postponed, your authentic self buried beneath layers of shoulds and oughts. And over time, you forget what freedom even feels like. You call it maturity, you call it responsibility, but deep down, you know something vital has been lost. Nietzsche didn't hate society, he didn't hate people. What he hated was mediocrity disguised as virtue. He saw how the herd promotes obedience as morality, how it labels ambition as arrogance, and how it punishes those who dare to step outside the norm. Because when someone creates their own path, it exposes the cowardice of those who never tried. The creator makes the herd uncomfortable, not because they're dangerous, but because they're free. And freedom, real freedom, is terrifying to those who've built their identity on chains. But here's the twist. The rebellion Nietzsche spoke of isn't about external revolution. It's not about tearing down governments or shouting in the streets. It's internal. It's psychological. It begins the moment you stop outsourcing authority and start questioning your programming. Why do I believe what I believe? Who told me this was success? Why do I feel guilty for wanting more? These aren't just intellectual questions, they're acts of philosophical rebellion. Because every time you question a borrowed belief, you reclaim a piece of your own mind. And only then can you begin to create not just art, but a self, a voice, a life that is truly yours. The creator, in Nietzsche's philosophy, is not just an artist. It's anyone brave enough to live from the inside out. The creator doesn't wait for permission. They create values where there were none. They don't mimic what's been done, they invent what's never been seen. And most importantly, they take full responsibility for their existence. They don't blame the world for their suffering. They transform it through action, through truth, through relentless self-honesty. They don't want comfort, they want becoming. And that's why they are dangerous to the herd, because they prove that you don't have to live like everyone else, you don't have to follow the script, you can burn it. But make no mistake, choosing to be a creator is not easy. It means loneliness, it means failure, it means walking a path with no map and trusting that your footsteps will create the trail. It means being misunderstood, ridiculed, even rejected. But Nietzsche would say, good, because those are the birth pains of authenticity. That's what it costs to be free. And isn't that better than the slow death of a wasted life? Let me ask you a question most people never dare to answer honestly. Are your beliefs really yours, or did you inherit them from people who were too afraid to question their own? If you stripped away every rule you were taught about success, happiness, morality, what would remain? What would you choose? What would you value? Who would you become? Because Nietzsche's message is not a condemnation, it's a challenge. It's a call to rise, to stop waiting for someone else to tell you who you are, to stop pretending that safety is the same as meaning, to stop following and start creating. Becoming the Übermensch, building a life that no one can give you. For Nietzsche, the ultimate goal of human existence wasn't happiness, it wasn't security, it wasn't even morality in the traditional sense. It was transcendence, evolution, the transformation of the individual into something greater, something self-made, self-ruled, self-overcoming. He called this being the Übermensch, often translated as the Overman or Superman. But don't be misled by the term. Nietzsche wasn't talking about superheroes or physical dominance. He was speaking about a new kind of human, one who creates values instead of inheriting them, one who lives by a code they wrote themselves, one who doesn't just react to life but shapes it with fierce intention. The Übermensch is the one who has stepped beyond the herd, beyond blind obedience, beyond the need to be accepted, and has built a life that no one else could have built, because it is not based on imitation, it is based on becoming. But how do you become that kind of person? How do you rise above the noise, the conditioning, the fear that constantly pulls you back into the crowd? Nietzsche's answer was both brutal and brilliant. You must confront everything in you that is weak, false, and dependent. You must face your own cowardice, your own laziness, your own hunger for approval, and you must will yourself beyond it. Not once, not occasionally, but every day. Because becoming the Übermensch is not a final destination. It is a way of being, a constant tension between who you are and who you could be. It is a war within the self, a war between the part of you that wants comfort and the part of you that wants greatness. And here's the truth most people avoid: no one can do this for you. No system, no religion, no political party, no guru, no therapist, no partner can give you the life you're meant to live. They can guide, they can inspire, but in the end you must build it yourself, brick by brick, decision by decision. You must endure the loneliness of standing apart. You must embrace the burden of freedom. And you must take full responsibility, not just for your actions, but for your existence. That's what Nietzsche meant when he said that man is something to be overcome, not by others, by yourself. This is not motivational fluff, this is existential fire. Because when you realize that no one is coming to save you, you also realize something else. No one can stop you. You are no longer bound by the past. You are no longer imprisoned by the scripts you were handed. You are free. Not in the shallow sense of doing whatever you want, but in the deepest sense of becoming who you must. The Übermensch doesn't ask for meaning, he creates it. He doesn't demand that the world be fair, he becomes strong enough to shape it. He doesn't hide from suffering, he transforms it into strength, into wisdom, into art. And yet this path is not for everyone. Many will choose the herd. Many will prefer the security of belonging to the terrifying beauty of becoming. And that's okay. But if you're still watching, if something in you is burning right now, then maybe you're one of the few, one of the rare ones who feels that pull, not toward comfort, but toward creation, not toward safety, but toward sovereignty. And if that's true, then you already know. There is no going back. So ask yourself the hardest question of all. What life are you building that no one can give you? What values are you creating that no one taught you? And what version of yourself is waiting right now to be born the moment you stop apologizing for your fire? Because Nietzsche didn't write for the masses, he wrote for the few, the ones who are willing to suffer for the truth, the ones who would rather build a life of meaning than inherit a life of mediocrity, the ones who dare to become the fire within. Why you must choose yourself before the world chooses. There comes a moment in every thinking person's life, if they're lucky, when they realize no one is coming. No mentor will hand them the perfect path. No system will give them peace. No applause will ever substitute for purpose. And in that moment, they face a terrifying truth. I must choose myself, not in some self-help cliché way, not as a slogan, but as a radical, defiant act of creation. Because if you don't choose yourself, your path, your values, your voice, the world will do it for you. And the world does not care who you could have been. It only cares that you fit the mold. Nietzsche's entire philosophy burns with this one truth. The human being is not a finished product. You are not complete. You are not fixed. You are a becoming. And whether you ascend or decay is up to you. That's why following others makes you weak, not because it's morally wrong, but because it robs you of your potential. It makes you a shadow of what you could be. Every time you imitate, you dilute your originality. Every time you conform, you compress the infinite possibilities of your being into a shape that was never yours to begin with. But what does it really mean to choose yourself? It means taking full responsibility for your life. Not in the shallow sense of productivity or self-discipline, but in the deepest sense of authorship. It means recognizing that every belief you hold, every value you live by, every action you take is a choice. And if you didn't choose it consciously, then you're living someone else's life. Nietzsche's challenge is to live so authentically, so intentionally, that every part of your existence becomes a creative act. You sculpt your character like an artist. You forge your values like a blacksmith. You shape your destiny like a builder who knows no one is coming to finish the work but him. This is the fire Nietzsche speaks to, not a fire that burns others, but a fire that burns within, clearing away the false, the borrowed, the weak. A fire that refines, that transforms, that gives birth to something new, something that has never existed before. You, fully realized, not perfect, not complete, but alive with intention, awake with purpose, burning with truth. And yes, this path is lonely, but it's a sacred loneliness, a creative solitude, because once you choose yourself, you stop needing the world's permission. You stop waiting to be understood. You stop apologizing for your depth. And in that space, you become dangerous. Not to others, but to the status quo. You become a mirror to those who've forgotten their own fire. You become a reminder that life isn't about comfort. It's about becoming. So I'll leave you with one final question. The kind of question that can split you open if you let it. If you stopped following, stopped pretending, stopped waiting, who could you become? Because no one can answer that but you, and no one else ever will.